Hello, and thank you all for joining me on my final web usability report. My name is Efren Hernandez, and I'd like to begin by thanking my client for allowing me to access their site and create a usability report throughout the past couple of months. So I'd like to begin by, first off, by letting you know the site that I will be discussing today, which is the Salinas Valley Memorial Healthcare System. So I'm going to begin by discussing the purpose of this report is to assist my client with the website usability and accessibility of their site. Furthermore, the report will address the users who are more likely to access the site. For example, my client mentioned that the ideal clients or users are patient, family members, as well as healthcare professionals. The report will also discuss in detail how, through cart sorting, there is a need for future testing. So let's begin. I'd like to discuss the objectives. The objectives of my client's page is to provide a site that allows the visitors to have complete access to the information in Spanish. The site is translated into Spanish, which provides equitable access to a population that is most in need of accessing the site. The objective of this evaluation, is to further understand how the site can provide user-friendly features while also editing the errors and usability accessed through the wavewebinar.org. My client's site provides services to those in need of medical services outside of the conventional practice while also offering a bilingual interface in Spanish. The Spanish interface allows for further use of the website that can provide access for those with a language barrier along with those who are English speakers. So what did we find using the Wave report? So while using the Spanish interface, that's the one that I typed in through the Wave report. So I want to say that as a fluent Spanish speaker, I found the site to be very user-friendly. However, there's always a need to reevaluate the site as well as to correct the errors that can help enhance the site. So according to the Wave report, my client's site has 3 errors, 19 contrast errors, 16 alerts, 10 features, 35 structural elements, and 228 areas. So overall, my client's site displays very few errors, which will go into further detail to understand how they affect the usability. Now, one of the things that I will exclude from this particular report is the 228 area and of course the 35 structural elements, but I will discuss the 3 errors, 19 contrast errors, and 16 alerts and 10 features. So let's begin with the errors. So here to the left hand side, this is a screenshot taken with the reports being addressed. So it's imperative to focus on the errors as this site allows for a more accessible site. Very low contrast between text and background colors. The 3 main errors appear to relate to a very low contrast, which also includes the 15 contrast errors implemented throughout their Wave report. So the errors seem to have been extremely redundant, as that's what the 3 errors really discuss were the contrasts that appeared at the through the interface. So there are 16 alerts that are found in the Wave report. The first is a suspicious link which can result in a user questioning the navigable access of the site. Redundant title text. So this is another thing that appeared throughout the alerts, which that's why I narrowed it down, because the majority of the other alerts remaining were always redundant title text. So title attribute text is the same as a text or alternative text, which makes the remaining of the alerts. So suspicious alternative text. Alternative text is likely insufficient or contains extraneous information. I will say, however, while I was navigating through the site and clicking on these links after the Wave report, I noticed that there was no suspicious link whatsoever. It turns out when selecting the link that this allowed for a valid URL, as the link would provide me to exactly what it specifically defined in its page. So let's keep scrolling down. So as we look through it, the link text contains extraneous text or may not make sense out of context. Redundant title text. This seemed to have been something that was sort of around and kept appearing throughout the Wave report. Title attributed text is the same as text or alternative text, non-script element. So this is probably something that can be addressed for future testing, which is the redundant link, which can be definitely we can definitely get to correct and create a better formulated site to have less alerts. So content within non-script is presented if JavaScript is displayed because nearly all users, including users of screen readers and other assistive technologies, have JavaScript enabled. Non-script cannot be used to provide an accessible version of an inaccessible script content. So as you can see here to the left, there was a lot of redundant within the titles, within the links, suspicious links, but overall, one of the things that I want to get into, especially right after flowing through the errors, is the cart sorting and usability experience. So I want to begin by first off by saying that the highlighted boxes that we see here were the main subject headings, and between these here are the subheadings that the website has them aligned. One of the things that I'd like to get into further detail is really discuss the two subjects for my cart sorting. So the original cart assortment prior to distribution to the two test subjects has been divided within their main subject heading. So I'd like to first discuss how the first subject had very little to no experience navigating a medical website, and this is one of the things where I will also discuss how the other subject in comparison to subject number one, how they express their usability while navigating through the site. So one of the things that I've noticed with subject one is that they struggled to create these subcategories. So one of the things that was noted was that they did not, after asking, was there any issues? And one of the things that they discussed was how there was a need to understand these medical terms. Of course, their experience using medical terms is probably something that they're unfamiliar with, which really goes to show how this could be a vital tool to further understand and to use for future testing. In comparison to subject number two, who is a soccer instructor and considers himself having a lot more experience using a medical site, the way that they decided to break this down really aligned with how the subject the main subjects and the subcategories really aligned with the site's vision. And that's what's interesting, is that as I discussed with my client, one of the things is that there is a need to involve future testing with those who have less experience using a medical website. So overall, I'd like to, for recommendation for future testing, there is a need for further evaluation and recommendation for future testing. As noted by my client, depending on the funding and staffing or further site evaluation, my client anticipates to assess and recommend testing every 2 years. Furthermore, this will allow for future testing and evaluation to enhance the overall usability. As noted by the cart sorting method, a user who is less inclined to use a medical site will assist the web developers to further enhance the accessibility by those who have less experience navigating through the site. Additionally, with the recommendation and future testing, the site will enhance greatly to eliminate any errors that can be found through the web report. So it's interesting to note that although there were still very few errors, there's always a need to always improve, and as new information arises, the website must be updated. And of course, as my client stated, this depends on the staffing and the funding that is involved in order to have a site that is up to date and has valuable information. And of course, when looking at the two subjects, it's also important to note that someone who lacks any medical experience will have a difficult time navigating through the site, as there are medical terms in some of the main subject headings that are inside these subcategories. So in conclusion, all in all, my client site's main objective is to provide equitable access to visitors who are interested in using their medical services. Though the wave report detailed errors throughout the site, these faults can be revisited and corrected with future testing. As discussed throughout the report, a need to further identify and eliminate these faults can be minimized with testing such as card sorting or guerrilla testing. The site overall, along with my client's objectives, demonstrates minimal errors and features a translated version which assists with increasing the number of visitors. Additionally, with the Spanish interface, this allows the user with the language barrier to have equitable access to information. So, I'd like to begin by thanking my client and by thanking my instructor, and thank you so much for checking out my web usability report. Thank you.